Hello, friends. Hey, welcome to another episode of the show. I'm Joe, and today I have this one's been on the docket for like 2 years. I'm like, how do I get this guy in the show? How do I? My guest today, seventh president of CUNY Bronx Community College. Here's a little bit of context. I think you just need to appreciate. The Bronx has been ranked the least healthy county in New York State for 16 consecutive years, and sitting at the top of that hill in University Heights, overlooking the Harlem River, national historic landmarks. It's a campus serving about 7,000 students from nearly 100 countries, folks. Dr. Larry Johnson Jr. is the seventh president of CUNY Bronx Community College. Larry, so grateful. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
So happy to be here, Joe. Thank you so much for having me.
So you stepped into this role, we're talking not years, months ago, July 2025. What is it actually like? I'm just going to start there to be you in this role right now.
Yeah, to be me in this role is it's exciting. It is transformative, and I think as you go from role to role and from college to college, in my instance, that it takes a some transformation that has to happen. So I was at Gutman Community College, which is also a City University of New York institution, but it was in Manhattan, and then coming directly to the Bronx, more of a sprawling 52-acre campus. It required a different mindset and a shift, so it's been an amazing journey of getting to know the campus, getting to know the students, faculty, and staff, and certainly getting to know all of our elected officials and all of our community-based
Right.
organizations. So it's been a time of fun and excitement.
Well, you're such a relationship builder too. So in this phase of just making the connections, I'm sure that you've been just like fully alive, fully alive. And you had the chance to actually like start up a campus at Gutman. I mean, talk about like envy. If we could start something up. Who wouldn't want to be part of a startup? But now you entered into this very historical place, and here's the tension that I really can't get out of my head right now. You walked into a campus that has like a hall of fame of great Americans, right? The busts of Lincoln, Susan B. Anthony, George Washington Carver, sitting in a whole colonnade right there. While the surrounding community has a 30% poverty rate and a graduation rate that we're just not, I don't want to talk about it because it's sobering, right? You've got some wonderful programs in place where you're seeing some gains right now. But what are you seeing that data doesn't show yet? Because you walked into a place that you saw great hope, but the data showed, whew, that's tough work.
Yeah, Joe, that is something. When you look at the data, oftentimes the data doesn't tell the story of the successful student that has moved on and to become an elected official, such as our assembly member who is Yudelka Tapia. It doesn't tell that story of the student who came here who could not speak English, and after going through the CUNY CLIP program, which is our CUNY Language Immersion program, that they're now able to be fluent and able to move beyond our institution to a four-year college or university. So it doesn't tell that story. We oftentimes hear the gloom and doom about the
Mm.
disproportionate number of students who are impacted in the social determinants of health in terms of housing insecurity and food insecurity. Those are the stories certainly that is out there. But when I think of Bronx Community College, what I know and what I'm learning is just that we are rich in talent. Our
Mm.
students have the most grit that I have ever seen in any institution that I've served. And what we do is that we're providing them the access to those rich resources, those associate of science programs that would allow them to transfer to a four-year college or university or directly to the workforce, such as our STEAM automotive program, which is amazing. Our
I've seen
students,
some of that on social. That sharp. It's like you got some real shiny spaces doing the real work.
yes, yes. So what we're doing, to combat the narrative, is the work that we do across the City University of New York, and our Chancellor Felix Matos Rodriguez has been really investing in our colleges with our CUNY Beyond program, where we're making sure that we think about career exploration and experiential learning, work-based experiences, and that is what we're doing at a very micro level at Bronx Community College. So we're now beginning to think about a Bronx Renaissance.
Love it.
What is that? That is the revival. So when you talked about the Romanesque columns and this campus that used to be what we called New York University, it was New York University, and we still have semblances of what it was like in the 1800s to be on this campus, the Hall of Fame. You walk into the rotunda. So we have such an amazing edifice here. And that is the rich tapestry that really that we're weaving to create this new energy around completion. So we're focused on that. We're looking at our new strategic plan now that will take us through 2031, and we're intentionally focusing on those retention rates, fall to spring, fall to fall. But we're also beginning to think about how can we really help our students not only persist, but remain with us and graduate and move into those high earning wages so that we can be the economic engine in support of the vibrancy that's happening in the Bronx.
Love it. Love it. Let me just put some of that context on the table. Community colleges nationally have been just fighting this demographic battle. I mean, you've seen it since COVID. The fight is altogether different, right? This sector shed something like close to 30% of its enrollment in 2 years nationally,
Mhm.
right? And you're a young man in a very important position, eh, but um, so you know the national conversation. You've experienced it from different institutions. What is community college just getting more wrong these days? Where are we just like not doing it quite the way that we ought to be doing it these days?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say I would say there's an opportunity, an opportunity to continue to tell our story. Oftentimes we hear of students who've matriculated to four-year colleges and universities, and you hear about that story. But what we have to do better at is telling the story of the student who came to us that could not speak English and we provided access, or the student who came to us with a GED or no GED and we provided those resources for them to be successful and to tell the journey, the life of that student. I think
Mhm.
that's an opportunity for us. And so much so, when I arrived to Bronx Community College, I asked the team to really begin to reimagine our digital footprint. How are we presenting ourselves on social media? How are we presenting our website in such a way where it will tell the story of the alum? It
Yeah.
will tell the story of the students who've gone on to be elected officials or CEOs of their respective companies. So I think that is an opportunity for most of our institutions. And we see colleges are doing that well. Many of the Aspen Award winning colleges, that is something that they do amazingly well. And that is something that I believe that we have to continue to do. I sit on the board of the American Association of Community Colleges, and under the leadership of Dr. Darian Pollitt, that is what we're beginning to really talk about. How can we not only illuminate the work that's happening, but how we can be intentional about telling the story about the value of community colleges and the students that we serve who come with richness in terms of talent, but how can we get them from the beginning to the end? And that is completion of a credential that gets them to work or that will take them to a four-year college or university for advanced studies.
So good. So good. Yeah, the cornerstone of democracy. You're sitting there right now. When you look at how most community college presidents are responding to enrollment declines, and I think more and more because of demand have to reprogram how we think about enrollment decline and how we kind of trash the old strategic enrollment plan that we used to have. And it's an altogether new generation of how we approach the work now. What do you see? What do you see that we're still doing wrong in response to that enrollment decline?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say wrong. I'll go back to the term opportunity. So there are opportunities that I'm finding at our institution where, we have to really be very laser focused on when we talk about student success, how do we define student success?
Right.
Student success could be a micro credential, student success could be a certificate of completion. But one of the areas that I think we have an opportunity to do is what is resurfacing. So when I first entered into academia, we began to talk about guided pathways. I'm now finding that at some point in time, sometimes we didn't incorporate all of the facets of guided pathways. But one of the things that I believe is an opportunity, and we are now beginning to execute this in our new strategic plan, is that we're now adding the career exploration at the beginning of the process.
Mm.
So when
Mm.
students come to us,
What made that happen? What was the light that just bing that illuminated, "We've gotta do this right up front."
yeah, so much of that came from my experience, serving in the Maricopa County Community College system, where we were really laser focused on guided pathways. Broward College, another college that I've worked on, where we were Achieving the Dream Leader College. So most institutions that I've served were either Achieving the Dream colleges and or they were Achieving the Dream Leader colleges. So the paradigm around guided pathways, the embedding of experiential learning at the onset within the first year, helping students to decide their major within that first academic year so they're not spiraling. As
Right.
the
Right.
former text that we heard about, which is redesigning America's community colleges, to me, that was the trigger. So when I arrived, I began to really assess where we were, the state of Bronx Community College. And I began to really talk to the faculty and staff about what do we aspire to do. But I began to really pull back the hood to say the hood, automotive
Mm.
program, you get that? So I began to really
I
think
love
about,
it.
so in this hood, we have retention, we have graduation rates, we have all of these things that are not quite where we want them to be. But let's begin to talk about how we can reimagine the
Mm.
experience of our students with that experiential learning. And much of this aligns with what we call the CUNY Lipton, New York strategic roadmap that has been provided by our chancellor. So it was a signal to me that where there were areas we can bolster that work to increase persistence and increase graduation rates, I saw that as a clarion call for now further discovery and exploration.
I love your Dukes are up. I can see the fight, and even in an interview, I you said something that really stopped me in my tracks. Some people say "wow," I say "whoa." I mean, it was just that rich. You said our institutions, or something to this order, must be designed to meet the realities of our students' lives,
Yeah,
right? Not force the students to fit the outdated models. So that's not a mission statement. That's that's really a structural indictment about what we've been not doing quite right. So the opportunity, I'm going to steal your word, the opportunity there of how you have reshaped that. Some of the realities for your BCC student population are really requiring you to, yeah, lift up the hood and check to see what do we need to rebuild,
right,
or perhaps even build faster.
right.
That what are a few of those things that you could not have anticipated before walking onto campus?
I could not have anticipated walking into a building and seeing a line outside the door for students that were waiting for our food pantry. I did not anticipate that. I did not anticipate, the number of students that, shared that they wanted more mental health resources. But what was most startling to me was the line, because when I walked over to, the building, I said, oh, is there a program that we have today? And they said, no, this is what it's like on, this particular day of the week. And I said, oh my goodness. I said, I want to talk more about this. How much are you spending? Well, what is the budget in order to, support, make sure our students have, healthy food options? So prior to my arrival to college, saw this as, a clarion call. And we're now building out a comprehensive stigma free, almost like a Whole Foods type approach to our facilities. So when students come in, they're getting a chance to experience a grocery or a market that is not just a table with food items on it, but they'll actually be able to walk through and have an experience. So, because we were so really, we're confident that if students are in a stigma-free environment, that
Mm.
they will take more advantage of the resources. So, I really love the work that our director, who's done, Daniels, who oversees our CARES program, is really advocating and advocated to make sure that we had that stigma free environment. So that is something that I didn't anticipate. But what it also did for me, it helped me to understand the story that I needed to tell.
Mm.
I believe that as the president of the institution, I am the chief storyteller.
Yeah.
My job is to tell the story of our students, tell the story of our academic programs, in hopes that there will be philanthropic contributions that will help us to bolster the work that we're already doing. So very startling, but I saw it as an opportunity to make sure that I'm hearing, our students. So before they get to the classroom, what additional resources do we need to make sure that they have? And when they're going through new student orientation, positioning these messages and access to these resources so that they know, so they don't get to a place of trouble and all of a sudden now they're just learning about the plethora of opportunities that are on the campus. So that was
Love it.
to me. It really
I
was.
love it. This isn't just a hopeful statement on a t-shirt, Dr. J. I mean, you're restructuring the entire institution for the student experience, and worthy work, my friend. Yeah, I need to start right at the headwaters of where it all started. Tallahassee Community College.
Yeah,
You were teaching remedial reading back in the day.
yeah, yeah.
That's that's amazing. How how somebody could go from there to the seat at BCC. Tell me how that is still with you today. Some of those learned experiences.
Yeah, so my first role at the then Tallahassee Community College, I think I underwent a name change to now Tallahassee State College. So what I didn't anticipate in that role is that when I arrived at the community colleges, that I would have from ages 16 all the way up to 60, because that's it's a comprehensive college. My early college or early enrollment or dual enrollment students were enrolled, as well as persons who were coming for retooling and reskilling. And at that time, there were multiple stages to completing developmental education. So there may have been one, two, or three courses that you have to
Mm.
complete before you can move into your composition and rhetoric course. But early on, I learned that adult students are really excited. They're excited to be there, and having them in a classroom with a young, precocious 17 and 18-year old, it taught me to understand classroom management. Taught me to really understand how to speak to all students, but to give that attention to the students, but most importantly, that needed it. But it allowed me to understand that there was a need of the students, and there needed to be a voice in terms of who could tell that story for them. So, as a faculty member, I could tell the story to the administration based upon what I was seeing and experiencing by students not attending, and being able to flag why. It could be food insecurity, it could be housing, it could be a student who says, I can't come to school today because I have a childcare challenge. Learning and teaching taught me all of
Mm.
I would say it gave me the tools and the narrative to help me to tell the story as now an administrator about the state of our students that are attending community colleges. It helped me to fight for child care services on our campuses. It helped me to create programming for our Black and brown men, because the data showed a disproportionate number of them were stopping out. And I experienced all of that through those early days at Tallahassee Community College and then Georgia Peatman Technical College as a faculty member, because I saw the condition of the student, and it informed then my leadership
Mm.
approach and then my deanship and provost and all those other roles, because it taught me, and I remembered the student that sat in my class, and I could advocate for them for the things that they needed because I had experienced it firsthand.
Woo! We should just wrap it up right now, folks. But I've just got a couple more questions. We've got to know more about just the strategic renaissance plan that you've developed in your short time there already. I can't imagine the public engagement that has taken place to rethink not just programs but structures and all engagement dynamics. Tell us a little bit about the Renaissance strategy and what you hope to achieve through that.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that, the process and the involvement, that it took. So when I first arrived to the college, I announced my first 100 days plan, and that plan was informed from the interview in August of 2024. So when I arrived to the college, my first day, I held an all-campus forum to just share my thanks and admiration for the college community for supporting my candidacy, and then I began to share with them, this is what I heard from you during the interview
Mm.
process, because I wanted to corroborate what I heard. But then I began to look at the work that the campus had already done, and there were 4 or 5 critical areas that they wanted to focus on, and that began my listening session. So I listened to over 100 plus colleagues, faculty, staff, students, and about 60 plus external stakeholders, and that informed then the 6 critical areas that I began to really focus on, and we are still focusing on at the college. So that broad-based engagement, that 25-minute sessions with anyone that wanted to meet with me that I hosted for what the first 100 days, it helped to clarify and crystallize why the Renaissance was the I would say the term that I chose. So the Renaissance really comes from my background as a faculty member teaching humanities. So
Mm.
the time period of my study from Florida State University was the early Renaissance period to the Baroque period. So throughout these different moments and times of the zeitgeist, the spirit of the times, we
Right.
learn that there's a change that happens in music, literature, and philosophy. And I said, that's where we are as a college. Based on what I heard, you want
Wow.
retention rates, you want to increase, the perception of the college. You want the grounds and the infrastructure and the deferred maintenance to represent a student-ready college. I said, guys, that's the Renaissance. We're going to call this the Bronx Renaissance. And my expectations and the outcomes of that is that we begin to really begin to think about how our campus is prepared for learning. That is the cleanliness of our campus, that's cutting the grass, that's fresh flowers, that's painting the walls of our campus, is refreshing our restrooms, because a student can't learn. We can't expect a student to learn if those other conditions are not met.
Amen.
So we're looking at all of those things, from the infrastructure to then looking at our data, disaggregating that data, looking at our students who are coming to us from different zip codes throughout the Bronx, to really understand the high schools that we need to partner with. How can we strengthen those relationships and also those industry partnerships? How can we partner with more industries and unions to get our students who are in the skilled trades into work, so that we can really be that economic engine that is driving the Bronx? So that's what we're hoping that
Right.
in 5 years, this Renaissance, Bronx Renaissance plan will show us, and hopefully we will have accomplished it.
And not only, your business partners across the way, but also your higher ed partners as well. Because I talked to them, and they're speaking very, very favorably about some of the momentum that you're building over here. So hats off if we were wearing them today, and I'd throw them in the air and I'd wave your flag because you're doing superhuman work.
Uh,
Really are.
Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Johnson. And this is a lightning round. We're going to do a lightning round where we
Yep.
prove that yes, you still are human, because we just need to know really who's behind all that Superman cape that you're wearing there. So quick fire, don't think too hard, but is there a quote? Is there a quote that you live by?
Oh man, yes. This is Dr. King's quote when he says, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" And that has guided my 20
Mm,
plus years of my career.
mm,
Mhm.
rich.
Yeah.
Worst advice you've ever received in leading people? Leading people.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Okay. So I'm going to flip that. All right. So, not worst advice. Let's say the best advice that I have.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, okay, okay. So the best advice I've received is that you must take time to learn your community, your stakeholders, your students, your faculty, and your staff, and you must tell them about the why. Before you make decisions, get the buy-in. Not everyone will always accept it, but explain, as Simon Sinek talks about in Getting the Why, which is a book I love, why the decision was made, what data supports that decision. So that is probably the best advice I could have received from anyone. Be
Very
an
good.
active listener in all that you do, and I use that in my personal life as well.
All right, Renaissance guy. Best HBCU marching band.
Oh man, I mean, I have to
This is
call
gonna be a tough one.
I have to call out my alma mater, the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, founded October 3rd, 1887, the home of the famed Marching 100. That
I
is the
love it.
best.
Boom, boom, boom. I don't know if you've ever not been right, but is there anything where you've just like had you changed your mind? Anything recently where you've
Mm,
changed your mind?
wow, that's a good one. So, not that I will say changed my mind, but I'm thinking differently about, let's say, the balance of work and restoration.
Mm,
And I've changed my mind in that, yes, you are to give your all 6, 7 days a week, however often we work, right? But I'm now, and this just came to me, Joe, I am realizing more the importance of balance, because I can't be all that the campus students, faculty, staff, and community needs me to be unless I'm all that to myself. And
you
that's
need to turn that up.
restoration, that's finding joy and peace, because all those things in turn make me a better leader when I arrive to the campus and in the community.
Flourishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not running a college, what would you be doing?
Oh, that's a good one. So if I were not running to college, I would probably run for public office. Yep.
Stay right where you're at because they need you right there, but I don't doubt that you would be a playmaker at all levels there as well. So, one word for BCC's future.
Hopeful.
Mm,
Hopeful.
I agree.
Yes, hopeful.
How about a question you have for me? Don't make it too hard now.
Okay, so Joe, you do a lot of work where you're helping teams to get inspired and renewed. How do you, or how would you inspire a campus culture where the average tenure at your campus was 15 to 25 years?
Wow. Well, actually, I don't see that as a major challenge because many institutions have much less in terms of just being able to retain their best talent. So I think you can accomplish a lot of work in 15 years. In fact, to change an entire culture, what you're doing right now, you can accelerate that. Most leaders are going to take 7 to 10 years to actually just, we use the word transform, right? Which means it's different. Most use the word transform and just change the furniture around a little bit. No, no, no. To truly transform, I think you can do it within the tenure of just the scope of what you're talking about there. But it takes a leader with focus. It takes a leader that is not only running the system, but also knows how to develop the capacity of the people, right, to meet the needs of the system at the same time. So it's a dual focus for anybody sitting in your chair. You must be a system leader and a people leader at the same time. And they don't alternate Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday. It is all integrated into the work. So, and largely that is the work that you're up to. I know it because I see it.
Thank you. Thank you so
There
much.
it is. That great. That's the best question I think I've ever gotten. So, Larry, for anybody listening in who just might be struggling, maybe not in the Bronx of New York, but could be in rural America and have taken on a new campus and might be struggling with some of the same issues that you are coming in, just trying to discover, make good decisions. What last piece of advice that you would just give a young leader who is maybe wondering a little bit, do I have what it takes to do this work?
Yeah. I'll say two things. Number one, allow yourself grace.
Yeah.
You may not know it all. You may make mistakes. You may send the wrong email. You may say the wrong thing in the wrong setting. Allow yourself the grace,
Mm.
but always center yourself around your why. Why did you choose this institution? They chose you, but why did you choose this institution? And why did you choose higher ed as your vocation? And hone in on that, lean into that, and always allow that in the most difficult of moments to bring restoration and joy. When you get in those moments of dismay and you're down, it is the why that will inspire.
So it's worth the wait.
Mhm.
So grateful. So this is what I learned from you. Here's the lesson that I learned from this 20-minute exchange. I think if you're a community college president, if you're leading any institution, K-12 at the chancellor level, provost level, wherever you happen to be, the question isn't whether the community deserves better, because they do, right? The question is, are you leading like you believe
Mm.
they do? And that's really the heart of the leader. You got to have the right mindset, but you also have to have the right heart set to ensure that the community deserves, right? Healthy teams, reliable systems, and all things that your students are coming to pursue. So you're changing family trees, sir. So appreciate you. If we want to learn more about BCC, how do they find you?
Oh, absolutely. So if you want to learn more about the college, we are easily found on www.bcc.cuny.edu. And we're also on all forms of social media, such as Instagram, LinkedIn as well. And you can just type in Bronx Community College and you will find the amazing work that my team and I are doing. And also you'll see the great work and the accomplishments of our students who
How
we
do they find you, Dr. Larry
okay,
Johnson?
how do they find me? Okay, so
No, no, you did the
it's not
first part,
about
but
me.
now how do they because
Yeah,
you're an author, you're a speaker, you're doing
yeah.
amazing things.
Yeah, see, Joe, I always go to what is, how to find
You
them.
know where the work is,
So,
yeah.
no, so how to find me? I'm also on Instagram as well at Larry Johnson Jr., and that's Instagram, that's TikTok, and also on LinkedIn. So I would love to engage with anyone that has any ideas and would like to talk more about just this how world of higher ed and how I can be of support in any way.
Most of us are just renting space from you, sir. So appreciate your time. Thank you. That's the show, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.